Welcome back to Press Start Mzanzi. I'm your host, Bandile Putuma, joined by my co-host, Kumo Morane. Let me give a big shout out to Gautrain Institute South Africa for their support in making sure that this conversations takes place. Our theme today is moving people, moving futures, and exploring how mobility, innovation, and even gaming intersects. Today we are joined by one of the leaders of the most iconic projects in South Africa, the CEO of Gautrain Management Agency. CE, welcome. We appreciate you joining us today, and we're looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you for having me, Bandi. CEO, Gautrain is seen as a model, a symbol of modern mobility in South Africa. What does the Gautrain mean to you, and how does it connect to Gauteng's broader development goals?
So, thank you, Kumo. And that question is important because when you look at the greater thinking about Gautrain and what it could be, we can go back to what the Gautrain was. But what the Gautrain is, it's not a project, as we say to a lot of people. It's about how it makes you feel. It's about how it's the essence of what you believe it could ever do. Now we normally talk about keeping Gauteng on the move. We are there to be able to create access in Gauteng. As we think from now, we actually have a 25-year deep plan called Access Gauteng 2050, which then allows us to be able to think about how can we connect people, places, and opportunities sustainably. And when you're saying connecting people, places, and opportunities sustainably, it's about you thinking about, it's no more about whether or not I have an electric car or I am using a hydrogen car. It's about you reducing your carbon footprint entirely. It's about you thinking differently, but creating impact in a way that then enables us to rethink the spatial urban form. People do not need to live in the same place and work in the same place. They can still be able to commute across the entire province without them worrying about anything. I mean, this morning was a nightmare trying to get here. And if you think about it, when I said to Aletta, I'm running 15 minutes late, she just gave me a sad face. So you didn't take the Gautrain. And she didn't even have to think it through. She just said, so you didn't take the Gautrain, which just means shame on you. Like you could have been here a long time ago, because literally from Midrand to here, it's 15 minutes. Then I would have gotten on the bus and it would have dropped me off just outside here. But I didn't, so shame on me.
Well, and actually now what you just said, CEO, is that Gautrain is not just transport. It's lifestyle, it's tourism, it's economic productivity. So how do you see that? How do you see that improves the future?
Think about it. I mean, the last 3 weekends in a row, the one weekend we were at the rugby, the Gautrain was there. The following weekend we were at the Absa Radio City in Tshwane. The Gautrain was there. The following weekend we were at the Scorpion Kings concert. And the Gautrain was there and was central to everything that happened. In actual fact, we were so central to everything, everybody thought we were actually the sponsor to the Scorpion Kings. We're not a sponsor, we're just a mobility partner. But we were that massive on the whole platform for you to be able to think, I'm running a business and I'm making sure that my business carries people to everywhere where they want to go. And when you talk about transport as a lifestyle product, this is what we mean. Because you think about it, the crowd that goes to rugby is completely different from the crowd that goes running on on a Sunday morning. And the crowd that goes running on a Sunday morning and the crowd that goes to rugby could be part of the crowd that went to Scorpion Kings, but they're not the main part of that. The crowd that now went to the Scorpion Kings were a far younger community and a bigger part of the future of transport. If we could get that crowd to be able to know that you can go out to, what do they call it, to a party, have your drinks, and still be able to get home without you, getting hurt or getting arrested. That is a game changer. That is a change not only in how we view our personal lives, but our responsibility to other human beings. Because you going to a party and getting into your car and driving after you had been drinking, it is the most irresponsible thing you could ever do.
Now, I'm reminded of this thing of how, but I guess it's in Europe, they'll use trains, right? To go around from parties to any event, trains running late into the evening. And I think I saw a message on Facebook saying how safe they felt, everyone, after Scoping King. They were walking in Pretoria and everything was perfect. And I guess they're also using the transport there. I think my question now, obviously we're gaming podcast. So do you see anything that Gautrain could learn from gaming? Millions of parents worldwide have spent so much money on gaming, I guess yourself included. Do you think there's anything that Gautrain can learn from the user engagement, loyalty, and all those things that are in gaming?
Gaming by itself, remember, you very rarely will see, unless you're on YouTube, and on YouTube on particular channels, you'd never see a gaming advertisement, advert. And you'd never see it because the people who are in gaming are in gaming. And they are a huge community that communicates across the world. They know each other, they know each other's handles on, what do they call it, on each of the platforms. And they all function in such a way that it is a community. And when you create communities of, in the olden days, we used to refer to them as communities of practice. When you're now bringing the logic of gaming and how gaming functions into the business world. When you create a community of practice have a sense of understanding. It's got its own knowledge. It's got its own knowledge artifacts, and it's got its own knowledge capabilities. That knowledge is shared across different platforms. Because sometimes, like, I would walk into the house and my son is sitting on the couch and watching YouTube. And he's now looking out for, the cheat sheet on how to beat a certain part of the game. And when you think about it, that somebody has played the game, created a YouTube channel to then tell you how to do it better. Now, that's a way of sharing knowledge that the world of business does not actually understand that easily. And it gets done without anybody directing it. There isn't a person who's orchestrating this thing somewhere. It is a community of practice that has its own norms and standards. It's got its own way of functioning. Now, if the business world can actually be able to redevelop itself in such a way that we stop working on the basis of hierarchies, but work on the basis of capabilities and know-how. Because leaders in gaming are those who know better than the rest of the people. Now, that is something that we can really, really learn from gaming. It's just a community of practice. And as a community of practice, by its nature, you learn from it. And then also similarly, how to move a message. Because my son would know about the latest game and the best of what is out there without ever having seen him sit somewhere and watch TV or do anything. There's a network that just exists below any other network. And when you get to be able to understand who's in gaming, it's no more the old geek that has no life, and it's now guys that, what do they call it? Senior guys in business who are in charge of billions of rands that move around, sit there and are able to, what do they call it? Are able to just be able to relax. But one of the things that you learn from gaming is gaming teaches you a structured way of thinking. And it has the ability to be able to get people to think differently about how to approach a problem. And a lot of guys who are in gaming, it is easy for you to discuss with them and have a conversation with them. I'm an engineer and I think in a structured manner. And if I'm talking to somebody and they cannot reorganize their thoughts in such a way that it allows them to be able to think or explain themselves in a structured manner, it becomes difficult for me. Obviously, with me becoming a CEO, I have to be nice to everybody and make sure that I can accommodate every other human being. But in essence, the point of it is that gaming has a lot to teach to business as a whole.
Now, a follow-up and to Kumo's point, our podcast is about gaming and digital innovation.
Yeah.
You are about mobility as Gautrain. So I want to get something from you. How do you see these two worlds connecting, gaming, mobility, now in terms of gamification, in terms of digital experience and all that, and also future commuter engagement? Do you see those coming together based on what you are doing as Gautrain and based on what we are doing as the gaming community?
So there's a lot to do, and then when you think about it, I mean, the game that you guys created that now shows people where to go and how to go about in accessing those points in and around Gauteng as a world. It's one of those. But let's start in what they call it in the simplest sense. When you look at gaming has a far bigger application in business as a whole. It's not only in mobility. And when you think about it, is that gaming is the easiest way of you being able to teach somebody how to do something without you forcing them to learn it. And gaming also plays quite a big role. So now of lately, we speak a lot about the concept of micro-learning. And micro-learning is when you take a few minutes a day to be able to learn something and to learn and explore something new. And gaming is a big part of micro-learning. And micro-learning in such a way that it is also repeatable. You can actually go back to something. So let's say I want to teach somebody how to use the Gautrain. And as I'm trying to teach them how to use the Gautrain, I can actually use a game to do exactly that. And by its, remember, gaming is also about gratification. So as somebody goes through the motions of learning how to do that, then you give them rewards, and every time they access the platform, they can then redeem those rewards through, getting a free trip on the Gautrain or something of that sort, or on any other public transport mode. That in itself reinforces your learning experience. The second part of it is also about being able to share information about places and also how to access particular places. So one of the key points of what we're struggling with in mobility is what we call walking links. So a lot of mobility can direct you on the public transport itself and within the station buildings, but they cannot connect you so let me give you an example. How to walk from the Gautrain station and for ease of logic, all the way into Zara in Sandton City. Now that's what we call walking links. Now gaming has the ability to be able to structure environments and be able to walk you all the way from from the Gautrain station. And let's say Zara's shop number is whatever it is, you then say, I want to go to shop number whatever. And it actually can redirect you. We're using the same environment that are used in the gaming and the framing of of the space that is, of the world that is created by gaming, to be able to direct somebody directly into that space. But there's a deeper understanding that then comes with you may call it walking links, but people living with disabilities and creating accessibility, the key issue with them is people living with disabilities are not asking you to help them to know how to do things. They are asking us to give them and empower them with information to be able to can empower themselves. If you give them, for you to be able, with a wheelchair, to be able to access, again, same shop, or exclusive books in Sandton City, this is how you go about it. This particular lift here is wheelchair friendly. And then from then onwards, you go to this particular level. You actually can play it in the game and be able to understand how to do exactly that. So accessibility of systems and creating access for people living with disabilities is a big part of how you can utilize gaming to do exactly that in mobility. And that goes beyond just creating the world. Because in gaming you can replicate an environment. I mean, now of lately, what do they call it? The virtual reality that can be created in gaming. It is as good as you walking through the place itself.
It sounds to me like I guess that walking link is like the super app, right? The companion, I guess, to the Gautrain trip, and then all these things. So it sounds like a lot of opportunities there, a lot of great things that can happen. I'm just thinking about now. I mean, congratulations! I think it was just your 15th year and birthday in June. A little personal note: it's the day after my brother's birthday, so on the 8th of June. So, and then also that transported more than 20 million people. And I guess where this question is going is about how important it is to sort of to tell these stories about our culture, about South Africa, about the great things that we do. And maybe the question is how important is it to share those messages with ourselves and the greater world?
It's not even about that. It's about national pride. A friend of mine he lives in Durban and works a lot up here, and he sometimes brings his kids with when he comes up here, and the kids, the one said the one thing and then the other one said a completely different thing, but it all led to the same point. So the one kid said, when they used the Gautrain the first time, they said, "I didn't know that we have things like this in South Africa." The other one, the older one, said, "I didn't know that South Africans can build things like this." Now, that is important in our narrative, because as we build our narrative as a nation, we need to be able. So we spend a lot of time on news talking about things that are not working. And we don't spend enough time to be able to tell the stories of the things that really are working, things that really just keep us going. Yes, this is South Africa. Every day we wake up and renegotiate our reality. But in essence, the truth is we have a lot of things that are working. I was telling somebody, I was looking for the photo, and I'll share it with you guys when I find it. I've been down in the tunnel numerous times. And I've looked at it, but I've never looked at it at how pristine a piece of infrastructure it is. And in particular on this part of what do they call it, of the tunnel where we have the tunnel boring machines section. And after that incident of the guy drilling into the tunnel, it reminded me, the damage reminded me of, does this man know what is actually done? Like the physical scar that is left on one of the most prime pieces of infrastructure. And as I was walking back from what do they call it, where the hole had gone through into the tunnel, I actually stopped and took a picture. And the lights were on in the tunnel all throughout, you could see from far in the tunnel. You can even see the slope of it going down from what do they call it, from Rosebank Station, and then as it goes up again to tend to go up to Park Station. I've been down there numerous times, and when I'm working. So I never get the time to be able to just stand and look at it. But that day, I realized how beautiful that thing is. It's just one of those things. And for the first time, I was in awe that this has actually been built in the middle of Johannesburg. People say a lot about how the city doesn't work and everything else, but the issue is it exists and it's there, and it's still in mint condition. It will be there for hundreds of years to come. And I was really proud to be able to be part of what this is. This at the end of this month, I would have been here 20 years. From the first time when I arrived, the 1st of October 2005, I would have been on the Gautrain for 20 years.
Wow. Big infrastructure projects, they require big partners. You've worked with, as GMA, you've worked with tourism authorities, you've worked with government. So what lessons have you learned about building effective partnerships?
That's a complicated question. But in essence, let's go down to the insights of what have actually come up now. When you do big partnerships, you have to go back to the essence of a partnership. And the essence of a partnership lies in the intent of the parties. And if you get it correct right there, I always say to a lot of people, contracts are the rules for how we fight when we get unhappy with each other. A contract actually gets concluded when the intent of the parties coincide and collide and actually get together in a world where when we've agreed that we actually can find mutual benefit in what we're doing, then we have a contract. We reduce it into writing so that we have the rules for how we're going to fight when we disagree. And most people don't understand that. They think the contract itself is the intent of the agreement. No. The intent of the agreement, in essence, even in law, when we cannot find the clauses to be able to explain what was our intent for concluding this contract, what the judge will ask for, he will ask for the intent of the agreement. And the parties will explain what they assumed was the intent of the agreement. Now, in essence, what you have to be able to learn to do is that when you create a partnership, establish that there is an intent to partner. And that is important because the intent to partner and the intent to partner in a mutually beneficial manner. Now, when you start saying, well, I'm going to work with the Gauteng Tourism Authority. Now, what are we trying to do? We then are looking at it and going, our intent collectively is for us to be able to get a whole lot more people to visit Gauteng. So the hashtag visit Gauteng, Zwagala, is our intent. They are doing it from promoting tourism as a whole. What is the benefit to us? The benefit to us is I get more ridership on my trains, but I get to showcase the city through my train and the province through my train. Then we are able to also keep everybody safe as they travel around the province. And they actually, I now, from the conversation I had with my friend that brought his kids here, we can actually create a product where people just come to visit Gauteng, just to ride the Gautrain. Where literally they would fly in, sleep over, and then the following morning they actually take their kids out to some, access Constitutional Hill, access various parts of the province, access Saibono, access the different malls here in Gauteng. The entire day they just on the Gautrain, off the Gautrain, and all of that. But this is where now the two worlds collide. If gaming can actually be able to create that, I think it was the one time when I was having a conversation with you guys, I say, more people visit the US just purely because they saw it on a game. They saw Florida on a game, they saw LA on a game, and that need to say, but does this world really exist where that looks like this? Mm-hmm. And more people, gaming actually has pushed tourism in the US more than any other platform. Now, why can't we do that? Why can't we create games that tell of Africa's beauty and it's what do they call it, and access various platforms, that go beyond Gauteng. When I met with you guys, I said to you guys, this thing here is a game changer. If it's built properly to be able to create access into teaching people about how beautiful South Africa is, and then creating that need to travel to South Africa, now you've created something that is beyond you. It is a legacy that then will create a world. But if you think about it, that idea of getting people to just come to Gauteng, to just come and ride the Gautrain and marvel at how beautiful it is and how something like this could have been done in Africa. But we do it through gaming and then teach people about the various key points, the tourism key points around Gauteng. Now that is a big, big world.
No, so you reminded me of, that at Fourways Mall, they got that plane inside. And I think the other week, a month ago, I know that people can go inside now. You can walk inside, but it's been gutted. So I guess imagine that experience there now with the kids going to see the manufacturing or even seeing, like the train opened up. That would be quite interesting, even for adults. I mean, I was like, okay, let me see what's this plane about. But you touched on the question I want to ask about collaboration, looking into the future. What kind of collaborative opportunities do you see then between Gautrain, tech, and gaming?
So for me, the tech industry has the ability to be able to give us to dispense information across the board. I mean, you were talking about the plane that has been gutted that is sitting at Fourways Mall. You know, when you think about these things, there's various collaborations everywhere, and so there's a train that's sitting in the middle of the Kruger. It has been rebuilt into a hotel. It was reopened. It was opened in 2021. No, it was opened in 2020. Yeah, late 2020, November 2020. In 4 months, it was on the list of the top 20 places to visit before you die.
Wow.
That's how spectacular it is. It's like you sit over the Sabi River, and every room has its own window that frames the Kruger National Park from where you're seeing it. And when you think about it, imagine that being one of the points in the game where you are playing in Gauteng, and then you take a plane, you fly to Skukuza, and then you're visiting that particular landmark. The Kruger Shalati train on the bridge. That place is so spectacular. They have their own graphic print that they commissioned, and they have blankets in that hotel that sell, I think, for about 3,000 rands or something of that sort. It's like a shawl type thing, or a throw that you put on your bed. That print that is on that blanket is not owned by anybody else, and it doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. It's actually intellectual property of the hotel. Now, these are things that we're able to tell from a collaboration perspective. We're able to tell about tourism. There's a what do they call it? There's a hotel that is built into a Boeing 737 in the middle of Woodspruit. It is so popular, they actually have had to bring a second one into the same site. It's a hotel, so where they used to be, what do they call it? Where they used to be the seats and everything else, they've subdivided the plane and they've made rooms out of that space.
Would you say Woodspruit?
Yeah, Hoedspruit. So that the east of Pretoria, right?
No, Hoedspruit is that.
Hoedspruit. Oh,
yeah, Hoedspruit is in that other side of the mountain near Palaburu.
Yeah,
near the Kruger.
Okay.
So we call it the gateway to the Kruger. And it's an incredible place to be able to be. You like sleeping and you're thinking, you wake up at times and you're thinking, where am I? And you because the windows, so they've kept the outside frame of the plane as is. So literally, when you get there, you see two planes parked in the middle of nowhere, and that's the actual hotel. Now, you what do they call it? You get to be able to understand that a world like that I cannot explain to you without you
seeing it
and explaining
and experience it.
Whereas in gaming, you are able to get people to understand how that looks like. And it should be intriguing enough that people would want to go and visit. And there's various landmarks. So before you get to that area where the hotel is, the two planes are, you go through the Abel Erasmus Pass, which is still regarded as one of the most spectacular passes you could drive in. South Africa in itself has a lot of beautiful mountainous roads and everything else. But the Abel Erasmus Pass has, so you go from the one end, so where you are sort of in a particular biodiversity, you go up all the way up on the mountain, and as you come down, the last bit of it, you go through this tunnel. And the tunnel seems like it's like transporting you from one world into another. And then just as you come out, the whole of the expanse of the Kruger and the what do they call it, and the town of Woodspirit appears in front of you. It's one of the most spectacular roads you could ever get on. I love driving and I love seeing our country.
I mean, to your point, because I'm not thinking about that plane, they could have had like displays inside, like little things, because they've removed everything else, but like how this plane works, like a digital element inside.
Oh no, all of that is still there. So the front cockpit is still.
Also, I'm talking about the one in Fourways.
Oh, the one in Fourways.
Yeah,
yes.
They're missing that element of them bringing it alive. But then also, I guess it's maybe this question about the expansion of Gautrain, right? I mean, I saw you have a lot of ambitions of expanding, going to other provinces, then to connect people to then this hotels that you're mentioning now.
But I think it's much more important for us to connect people in Gauteng first. So making sure that the Gauteng super network is built in full. So one of the things that has happened in order they call it so in the last 15 months or so, in addition to being the CEO of the Gautrain, I'm also the interim CEO of the Transport Authority. So I have two hats at the same time. The Transport Authority in itself, its role is for it to be able to plan for mobility as a whole. So instead of us planning as various companies and various mobility partners in Gauteng, there's a centralizing body that consolidates all of that planning. As part of that work that we did, we did a simulation of traffic in 25 years. But one of the most interesting things that appeared out of that simulation was that traffic as it is right now, so your true speed on the freeway right now, today, in today's terms, is about 27.6 kilometers an hour. Your true speed on the freeway. Which literally means the space between Sandton and what do they call it, and Sandton and just as you leave Pretoria is about 45 kilometers or something of that sort. Now, if you're traveling at 27
kilometers an hour,
what does that mean? For you to be able to traverse that space from there. But we also discovered something new. It's no more, the congestion is no more on the freeway. The congestion is now at your house. As you leave those who live in gated communities, as you leave the gated community, the traffic is here, right in front of the gated community. Now, what that means is that we have to think differently about mobility. Mobility in itself is no more about you driving your car from your house to a station. It's now about us enabling the type of mobility that picks you up from closer to your house.
From your door.
It's about us getting the mindset of people who live in Gauteng to be able to change from you don't need to take your car at all. Or if you take your car, you drive it a kilometer to somewhere, and then from that kilometer, then you are on a what do they call it? Some sort of a mobility platform, be it a BRT, a tram, or what do they call it? The heavy rail in itself. It's about us making sure that accessibility of transport is closer to where people live. Now, the Gauteng Super Network is about that. It's about us making sure that in as much as we're not going to build everything as, Gautrain as you know it, but there will be parts of Gautrain that are light rail systems, which are like trams, which will run on the same roads as what they call it as the cars, and be able to move people much quicker from there and mass from there to what do they call it to the next point of change and all of that. It's about us putting as many of these smaller buses into regions like this. Where people we create accessibility. And it's about us rethinking mobility as a whole. Now, as we expand, there's also the bit where we think about how do people arrive from other provinces? And as they arrive here, how do we redistribute them across the entire province? Now, we're going back to the idea of gaming. If you think about it, there's big business out in places like India and what do they call it in China. What these guys do is they use their skills that they use to create gaming environments and gaming worlds to be able to showcase how projects will look like before they're built. Now, that's a big application of what do they call it, of the skills that lie in gaming. You always think, what will it look like? Where will it run? And what would you be able to see? I can actually use the skills that sit in gaming
To think ahead.
to actually use the what they call the basic design and the what they call it and the route determination to then say this is what it'll look like. It may not even be built exactly like that,
100%.
but it will give people the
The
idea
idea what it look like.
of what it will look like.
At the end of the day.
It was amazing when we went out to conferences in Europe and we were engaging various financiers. Normally, I would use a presentation and I would like run through 20, 30 or 40 slides to be able to explain the issue.
Man, I know where you're going with this. I know
But
how you hate slides. I know how much you hate slides.
No, it's not a question of hating slides. Slides have gotten me to where I am. But we developed a video with Aleta and the team and the marketing team for the Limpopo Rail project. It's a 4 minutes, 35 seconds video.
Wow.
Every meeting I went into, I played that video.
It gives everything.
It tells you everything. It tells you the intent of what we're trying to create. It tells you the essence of what we were bringing together between the world that is Limpopo and the world that is Gauteng. It tells you everything that you need to be able to imagine what is the benefit of what we're trying to do. Now, that is a game changer. But now once we get to a point where we get to detail, gaming, that's where gaming excels. That's where videos do not do justice to what do they call it, to what a project could look like. And as we expand projects like that, there is great opportunity for the skills that lie in creating games, for us to be able to create a world where we can showcase. I mean, a building like this, you are able to take it from it's 3D renders, and then be able to create from the gaming structure the ability for you to walk through the building before it's even built. But you know where now the game changer lies. Imagine me being able to walk through this building and make changes to that building before it actually gets built. So I actually get the guys to redesign the building because something suddenly doesn't look right. It doesn't feel right. So as I virtually walk through that building, something doesn't connect, or I'm finding that I'm walking through a lot of dead spaces that are unusable. Now, that's a game changer because when you think about it, those 3D renders, when you can walk through them, then you are able to then create a world in which I am able to imagine the use of the building and operationally be able to change it in such a way that it becomes much more efficient.
Maybe if you can touch further on the same point, CEO, you've led the country's ambitious project. Like, I mean, we all know what this kind of a project is, one of the country's ambitious projects. What leadership or what has that taught you about leadership, resilience, and vision?
Man, that's a difficult question, but we will attempt to answer it and attempt to look intelligent as we answer the question. But so this country is amazing. So for me, this country, to me, it's not about its flaws. It's about how it's able to pick itself up from the floor every time it gets down there. The one thing this country has is that ability that for it to be as resilient as you could ever get. And it's not about the only leadership, but it's about the individuals. It's about how the people in this country are able to see themselves better every time. It's about how a young man from a township can think about gaming as a form of as a career. It's about us being able to. We're a very funny country that has, people say we're a dual economy country. I'm saying we're a multi-directional economy country where we can be completely in the first world and be able to create jobs that do not exist anywhere else in the world in a space where people are struggling to feed themselves. Now, that's the country that you then have to understand you lead. You lead a country that has such a diverse population, and you have to be sensitive to it. You have to be sensitive to the fact that not everybody comes from that first world. You may be in the first world. I mean, if you walk through our offices, a lot of people always walk in and say, are these government offices? You say, yes, these are government offices.
That's true. I've noticed it. I've noticed it.
And you say, yes, these are government offices. But because to them, government offices are supposed to look
old and shabby.
There you go. And, with one painting that is sitting skew, it's been sitting skew since 1979. But our building is not like that. And as you exist in that world where you have the best of everything else, you have to understand that you lead a people that is as diverse as they could ever get. And therefore, you have to be able to understand the context of of the people you are leading. I went to a conference last week, and as I was there at the conference, I saw somebody running behind me, and with everything else that's going on, we're in a heightened state of security, and I was like wondering who's this. It's a young man who I have last seen probably about 20 years back. And he walked up to me and he said, I stayed in the railways and I worked hard to finish my degree because of you. Because to me, you were that young icon of people who are working in the railways and are going to change the world. And he says, I have stayed on, and now he's telling me his story and telling me how he's gotten himself to where he is. This young man is from deep rural KZN. And he says, where I grew up, the guys who make money there are the guys who are bricklayers, who are, drivers, who are this and that. And he says, I knew there was engineering, but I didn't know what engineering was until I met with you and I was able to sit down with you and ask you a few questions. And eventually I got myself a bursary to be able to go and study engineering. And and I've also stayed in the railways because of that. Now, that's leadership. That leadership is not us having these fancy titles. It's about being able to inspire somebody to do something different and to become different and to be able to want to contribute to the world that is South Africa and beyond. And if you want to talk about insights to leadership, it's about, I always say, I once put a post on X, and all it said is, who are you mentoring today? That was the first post that I ever put up that went viral around the world. And it literally went around the world for 3 days. Like just simply people pushing it forward. Who are you mentoring today? And to me, leadership is not about, how much money and what kind of suits you wear and most of other things. It's about the impact that you create from your leading. And that becomes an important conversation that we must have and have it in a way that it says, am I inspiring anybody? Am I making the world better because I exist as part of what is going on and as part of this title? And that to me are the insights of being able to understand that beyond working in an environment that is as diverse as it is, you also always have to remember that one of one of the services you provide as a leader is for you to inspire people to live their best lives.
Wow.
No, see, thank you for that. If you're to think about Gautrain as a game, what would that look like?
Oh man, that's an interesting one. When we were, what do they call it? I love driving, and
Your Grand Prix and
yeah. So yeah. And as much as I'm in mobility and in mass transit, yeah. What do they call it? I haven't played games in such a long time. But there's a thing that we always say in our buildings: like, no 2 days are the same in that building. There used to be that game where the whole point of the game was for you to crash as many cars as you want as you drive around. I'm trying to remember the name of the game. And I think the third version of that game just killed the game because they changed the intent of the game. The intent of the game then became to avoid the crashes. Whereas the crashing. I used to play that game for hours on end with my son, and I used to have just the idea of just crashing stuff all around. Was just one of those things that were fascinating, because like you are in a world where it doesn't matter how angry you are, you can just get in the game and just crash a whole lot of things. But the Gautrain in itself, I'll probably see it as probably gone in 60 seconds. The us keeping things moving and making sure that it goes as fast as it could and keep to the time that we want to. That, to me, that would be the idea.
You've existed for 15 years now. Fast forward 10 years. What role do you think Gautrain would play, or how do you want it to contribute to the future, looking forward 10 years down the line?
I order the color. I'm a firm believer in trends. But trends for their use in them informing the future. And to me, what Kumo had raised as what do they call it? As mobility as a lifestyle product. For me, a world in which your first thought when you get out of your house is you taking your phone and planning your trip on our mobility system in order they call it, and with the Gautrain being central to that. To me, 5 years from today, that has to be the world that exists. It has to be a world in which your first thought is the Gautrain first before you think of your car. 5 years from now, we need to have information at the tip of what do they call it, or in the palm of your hand, as one of our ads say on what do they call it, on one of the apps that we had created. It's you having the province at the palm of your hand. You having the ability to be able to make your mobility choices through you having an app that has all the mobility information that you need, but also has the ability to be able to show you how to, when you get there, how do you walk from where you got off the main trunk, or what next mobility system do you take to be able to take your onward journey. So your last mile services are already captured properly in that. So to me, a world in which Gauteng has their first thought of moving is through the Gautrain. That is a game changer. But in 10 years' time, I want to see probably a greater part of the 350 kilometers built. I also would love to see the Limpopo rail completely done, if not done all the way up to Messina. At least the Polokwane leg should be done. 10 years from now, as we look into autonomous vehicles and all of that, I am looking to a world where your combined mobility, you are able to call an EZ10 to your house. It stops right in front of your house, and you tap with your phone and you get into it, and it drives you to where you want to go while you are working or you are playing your game in order they call it in the EZ10, and you get off at the Gautrain and you get onto your next leg. And then at the end, you've got another autonomous vehicle that will then move you on from there. So to me, that is 10 years from now. But 10 years from now, we need to build more of the Gautrain and give accessibility and create that access Gauteng properly.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. Hey, the traffic. And I live in the north. I was saying the pain of crossing the highway into the ring, I wouldn't mind. And there's always people on roads in Joburg, like at 2, 1, 11, like
24 hours.
Do you work? Do people go to work or not? So, I guess for me, the last question I wanted to ask at least is, if you had a message to the young people tuning in about innovation, about the future and thinking big, what would that be?
Wow. So for me, the future is, South Africa has never ceased to be alive with possibilities. It has never, and it will never ever cease to be alive with possibilities. So being so far away from the rest of the world, remember we're on the southern end. The only thing that is far lower than us is Australia. It's that it creates a dichotomy where we're so far away from the world that we actually have to create our own way of doing things. Because people, when they think of us as a market for new products, they go, oh man, how are we going to move the products there, kind of a thing. But at the same time, it also creates a world in which we're so far away from the world that it's not very easy for us to get stuff here as quickly as possible. But that in itself is an opportunity. It's an opportunity because it then creates a world in which you are able to then innovate. But innovate in such a way that we actually have the African context in place. So you don't rely on the rest of the world to teach you what to do. You take what is out in the world and do it better because you're so far away from the world. And people think of you last when they think about a market where they should put products. That's why the tariffs have not done anything to us. Because the tariffs, they have no use to us because we make our own products mostly here. I was intrigued. I met these youngsters. They own a tech business called Koi. So they make smartwatches and high-end, personal listening devices and all of that. And it's good quality stuff. And they're selling it at a price that is like probably about 10 to 15% of how much you would buy a normal high-end wearable. Now, that's South Africa for you, where somebody cannot afford a 20 grand wearable. They've created it for 2,500 rands. It has everything and beyond. In actual fact, some of the capabilities that are in some of the high-end products, and they're saying it's going to be in their next innovation, these guys have already built it into their wearable. They're already able to carry most vital signs on their wearable, your health data. They have more of that data than most wearables do today. And that's a South African product made out of Orlando East. Now, that to me, that is South Africa. And that is how alive with possibilities we are. No matter what you get told, this place will always, always be home. And it will always, always have the ability to be able to. I mean, what happened over the weekend, everybody thought we were playing when we said, this is what we're doing. We're going to be running trains at 2:00 in the morning. And everybody said, nah, you wouldn't do it. And what did we say? We said, hold my beer. And just like that, we did it. It was just like that. But that's South Africa for you. That's how resilient we are, and that's how capable of being able to do the most interesting things you could ever do. Whoever ever thought that a high-end mobility system like the Gautrain could be a big part of Amapiano? Nobody. But that's exactly what we do. That's what we do. We wake up every day and renegotiate our reality because we are resilient as we could ever get, and we're as innovative as we could ever get.
Yeah, thank you, CEO. Our theme today was moving people, moving futures. And CEO has shown us how transport, innovation, and even gaming can intersect to create opportunity and inspire imagination. And we really appreciate it, CEO. It's been a pleasure to have you with us today. I've learned a lot, and I'm looking forward to share or learn more from you. Thank you, CEO.
Thank you for having me.
No, thank you, CEO, and thank you everyone who's tuned in. Remember to like and subscribe to our channel on Spotify and YouTube. And let's all press that, Mzanzi. Thank you.
Thank you.